Relationship is the most important thing on the planet. I keep saying that because it is. First, our relationship with God, and then our relationship with our family, and of course our relationship with one another. That's why Jesus said, love the Lord your God with all your heart, your soul, your mind, your strength, and to love your neighbor as yourself. So that's what we're talking about in these sessions, is how to have a healthy relationship and maybe managing some of the curveballs that come along with relationship as a whole. I have Parker here with me.
What's up, guys?
Parker is, I guess you would call him, he's a marketing guy, but I guess you'd call him my producer, because anything that looks decent on this video is because of him. He makes it look as professional as he can. And so I'm so thankful for him. And I have him here today as basically as a prop. And so he's just going to be a guy that's just going to be here and not really have a lot of input. I'm going to be doing most of the talking, but you'll see what I mean here in a little bit. Last session we talked about relationship, and we also talked about Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And in habit number 4, we talked about think win-win, how you enter into conflict with a win-win attitude. And as I mentioned previously, you don't go in thinking that you're going to win and the other person's going to lose, because the other person's going to walk away feeling slighted to some extent. And certainly you don't want to walk into a conflict feeling like, I'm going to give up and just be a doormat and just to make people happy, because when you get done with that little deal, you're going to walk away with a lot of resentment and bitterness. And it's eventually, as I said previously, that's going to probably bring a sense of entitlement into your mind, and that's where all that self-gratification often comes from, which leads us into poor behavior. And so last time we talked about how the way that you have a win-win attitude when you have a conflict is that you put relationship above everything else. So that if I walk into a conflict, the last thing I want is to leave that conflict, whether I get more of what I wanted to begin with or not. The last thing I want is for my relationship to be damaged in any shape, form, or fashion. And so people are more important than projects every single time, and we got to remember that. And so today I'm going to do a little role modeling, and Stephen Covey had an awesome principle in habit number 5. It's entitled, Seek to Understand First, Then to Be Understood. Seek to understand first, and then to be understood. And it's so simple and it's so easy, yet at the same time, if we do this, we're going to, come here just a little bit. Okay, if we do this, we are definitely going to see a lot more a quality relationship. I genuinely believe that if people actually practice this habit, that there would be a lot less divorces. There would be a lot less teenage kids out running the streets and not knowing, and their parents not knowing where they're at. There would be way more communication in your home. You can practice it with your employer, your employee, people at church, anywhere you have relationship. So here's how it works. Okay, so I'm going to say that Parker here has been a friend of mine for a long time, and he has been a friend for a good while. But we're going to say that we've been friends for a good long while, and man, we play golf together. We have a lot of fun. We enjoy one another's company. And but even in the best of relationships, sometimes things happen that brings a wedge in between that relationship. And so it really doesn't matter what the issue is. We're just going to say that there's an issue that took place. And he was on one side of the issue, and I was on the other side of the issue. And he felt very strongly about his point of view, and I felt very strongly about mine. As a result of that, there's been a breach in our relationship to a certain extent. And so, you know, we're not calling up each other every day like we were and visiting. And, you know, we really don't have a golf game planned to go play yet. And, you know, there's a withdrawal. Remember when we talked previously in other videos about when one person feels assaulted or attacked, usually they will withdraw from the other person. And then that's what creates this whole scenario where wedges get involved into our relationships, and we begin to draw away from one another instead of drawing towards one another like Christ would have us to do. And so I'm going to practice this habit. We're going to look at these two habits, and I'm going to call Parker up, and I'm going to say, hey man, can I come over? I want to visit with you for a little bit. And he's like, yeah, sure, no problem. Come over. I'm going to talk for him, okay? And so anyway, so I'm on my way over to Parker's house, right? And on my way over there, Parker is already knowing that I know that something's up. He knows that there's a problem. He feels that there's a problem. And so he's already thinking in his mind, man, I know how Gary feels about this and that. And I know what he's going to say. And so I know what I'm going to say when he says that. And I'm going to have my defenses up. And so Parker has got his mittens up. Now, we're not going to get in a physical fight, but he has got his mental mittens up. He's already ready for this confrontation, right? Okay, so I go over there, but I'm going to practice win-win, first of all, and I'm going to tell myself that no matter how this conversation comes out, the most important thing that can happen is for me and Parker to have our relationship like it's supposed to be. Because people are more important than projects and things like this. And so I'm going in with a win-win attitude. See, he's probably got a win-lose mentality right now because he doesn't really know about Stephen Covey's stuff. He hasn't heard this video yet. And so he's just like most people. He's got this win-lose attitude. You know, I'm going to win this argument, and Gary's just going to be the loser. That's the way it's going to be. And so I get over there, and we come in the house and sit down. And you know how that scenario goes. There's always a little bit of small talk, you know, before you actually get to the point. And but eventually we get around to it, and I say, well, I guess you know why I'm here. Yeah, I know why you're here. And he's ready, man. He's ready to rumble, right? But here's the deal. Here's where we start with habit number 5. Is I look at Parker and I say, Parker, listen, I really want to understand exactly where you're coming from. I know that we don't see eye to eye on this issue, but I really want to understand what's going on with you. And I want you to explain it to me as best as you can. Don't worry about getting in a hurry. I've got all the time in the world because it's important for me to really hear your heart and to know where your mind's at. And so if I interrupt you at all, it'll be just to ask a question. If I ask a question, it's just to clarify what you're thinking or what you're saying, and so that I know I understand you completely. And so I don't want you to feel like you're in any kind of a conflict here. I really want to just hear you out. Wow, okay, now then, defenses are starting to come down a little bit over on Parker's side because he was thinking that he was going to have to get the word in edgewise and that he was going to have to defend himself. But you know what? Now then he's got the floor. He's got the floor. And so Parker starts telling, now he's not unpassionate about it at all at this point. I mean, he's still very passionate about what he believes. And so he begins to tell his side of the story. And he's passionate about how he's telling. I'm not responding to his emotions, okay? I'm not there to respond to his emotions. Even if he says something that maybe it seems even a little offensive, I'm not going to respond defensively, because if I ask somebody to please tell me what's on their mind, and guys, listen, if you ask your wife to tell you what's on her mind, and then you respond in a defensive or a mean way back, you're not going to get much more out of them after that. And so you're basically saying, hey, be vulnerable with me. And if you're going to be vulnerable, if you're going to allow somebody to be vulnerable with you, then you want them to feel safe, right? And so Parker's telling me his stuff. I ask him, maybe I stop and I say, hey, now wait a minute. Are you saying such and such? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You know, he's still got a little passion going on. That's okay, man. I just want to understand where he's coming from. And so while he's talking to me, I'm looking at him eye to eye. I'm not looking around. You ever talk to people where you can tell they're just waiting for you to shut up so you can say something? And that's not what I'm doing. I'm trying my very dead level best to connect with him on a level that's deep and understanding. And so I'm nodding my head, I'm asking questions, I'm listening, and I'm just hearing him out. You know what? By the time he gets done telling me his side of the story, there's a lot of emotions that's been expelled from him, because he has had the opportunity to truly say what's on his mind, and he didn't have any interruptions. He didn't have any worries about having to defend himself. And so, like, he's feeling pretty relaxed by the time we get to the end of the conversation, even though I haven't even said anything yet. And so now then, he looks and appears as though he's done. And so I asked him, Parker, is that all you had to say? Are you sure that's everything, right? Yeah, that's pretty much everything. Yeah, that's the way I feel about it. Okay, great. Well, you know what? I'm not going to have to ask Parker or tell him that it's my turn to talk now. You know why? Because I've already modeled it. He felt respected, and while I was listening to him, in the back of his brain somewhere back there, there was something registering that's saying, man, this guy's actually listening to me. He actually cares about what I have to say. He really does want to know what's going on with me. And so, like, he is going to reflect that respect back to me, because I showed him that, and it felt good. And so, like, I don't have to tell him now, I want you to listen to me. I want you to make eye contact. I don't want you to interrupt. I don't have to do any of those things, because he already has been the recipient of that, and he appreciates the value of it. When I get done, guess what? While I'm talking to him, you know what he's doing? He's listening. He's nodding his head. He's asking questions. You know, by the time we get done with this thing, we may have been a long ways apart from each other as far as the issue is concerned. But here's the deal. We may not even solve that issue. It's not even a big deal. Because here's why. Because in the process of us doing this, we have a message has been presented that said, hey man, you are more important to me than this stupid issue. And I don't want my relationship with you to be damaged or injured in any sort of way. And this issue is not bigger than our love for one another. And so, you know what? By the end of it all, even if we don't totally agree on everything, but can I tell you something? When you hear somebody else's side, you're going to understand much better. You may not agree with everything. Now listen, I am pro-life, okay? I'm never going to be nothing but pro-life, right? I mean, nobody's going to change my mind on that issue. But if I sit down with somebody who's pro-choice, and I say, hey, listen, I really want to understand where you're coming from on this. I'd really like to know a little more about it. And as they tell me this, they're not going to convince me that pro-choice is the way for me to go, okay? But I am going to understand them. And guess what? There's probably going to be something that they say that I actually agree with, you know? And because everybody's got an opinion, and not everybody's opinion is totally wrong. And so anyway, so when we get done with this conversation, even though this issue, whatever it was, might not have been totally solved, one thing we know for sure is that we are going to be friends. And at the end of it, he might look at me and say something like, well, you've always been a goober anyway, Gary. When are we playing golf again? Oh, I don't know. Let's get together next week. And so why? Because our relationship is more important than projects. Seek to understand first, then to be understood. Now, let me ask you a question. Ask yourself this question. If you sit down with your wife or your teenager or your preteen, or your employer, or your employee, and you have a conflict and you were to practice this habit, do you think you could do it? I just modeled it for you. I believe you could. It's not hard. It's not difficult. It's really easy. And, you know, and if you practice this, I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. People are going to respect you because you respect them. And they recognize that you value relationship more than you do anything else. And so there's something to talk about. We're going to talk about something else that has to do with relationship in our next session. I hope you're enjoying these sessions on relationship. I think they're extremely powerful, and I hope that you tell somebody else about it. Hey, listen, Parker is a marketing guy. His company is
Motion Marketing.
Motion Marketing. He is actually going to put a link on this video so that if you'd like to see some quality marketing, listen, don't base his quality on my video, okay? The first of it is what really looks good, right? And so anyway, but if you'd like to get in touch with him, he'd be happy to work with you. He's a great Christian guy. You'd love him a lot. All right, well, I'm gonna sign off, so I will see you guys next time. God bless.
See you guys.